thank you so much for being here, for caring about our kids, our schools, and our teachers. We have some special guests with us tonight that we'd like to recognize. From Congresswoman Julia Brownley's office, we have Danny Rodriguez. From the Community College District, we have Josh Chancer. From our beautiful city of Ventura, we have our mayor, Matt LeVere. Thank you all so much for being here. And from our Board of Education, we have Velma Lomax, Matt Alvarez, Jerry Dannenberg, and Sabrina Rodriguez. And Sabrina, would you please join me for a moment to give some comments as our Board of Education President?
Thank you, Madhu. It's really a pleasure to be here and to celebrate the important work that VEP has done in our schools, not just for the last few years, but for more than 20 years. If you've been following their work, you know that over the last 10 years, VEP has raised and donated over $1 million to our schools in classroom grants. It's really an incredible achievement, and it's only possible because of community support. So it's wonderful to see so many people here who care about education, who are not only educators, we have a huge contingent of teachers and principals here and professional educators, but also business owners and community service groups who have for many years supported the work that VEP does to provide innovation in our classroom. And one of the things that I'm most proud of about VEP is the way that VEP allows teachers to take a seed, a small seed of money, create a great program that then can be replicated across our district by other innovative teachers. And that just creates a ripple effect from a small donation of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. We have programs like Alex Wolf's that you'll hear about tonight that have rippled out across our county and across the state. So thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to represent our schools and our district. And I really want to just extend my personal gratitude to Madhu and to the entire board of VEP because it's an all-volunteer board that works tirelessly to support our children. So thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina, so much for what you do for our schools and our kids each and every day. You're really a beautiful example for all of us of what service really means. So thank you very much. Tonight, we have a lot of donors to VEP's grants program in the room. We're so grateful for all of you. And we have some sponsors that made tonight possible. We would like to thank all of our sponsors, but especially Fast Signs of Ventura, Mathnasium, Adela Trainer, and of course, our evening's presenting sponsor, Era Energy. Michelle, would you please join me? We're so grateful for a wonderful partnership with ERA, where they not only provide support for our VEP grants program, they also come out and read at StoryFest. They volunteer as grant readers to help decide where we put those funds and connect us with community resources and opportunities. So it's really a beautiful partnership. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you. You just did my speech for me, so thank you. And pardon my notes, I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. So welcome tonight to the inaugural launch event. As Madhu said, I'm Michelle Newell and I represent Era Energy. We are proud to be tonight's presenting sponsor and a longtime partner with VEP. Era is a California company and holds the values of all Californians. We strive to innovate, celebrate productivity, and advocate for the preservation of our beautiful state. At ERA, we care about providing energy for California and prosperity for all Californians. Here in Ventura, ERA's cutting-edge technology responsibly and safely produces oil and gas and contributes to the economic vitality of this region. Our operations add nearly $200 million a year to the county's economic health, which funds local law enforcement, firefighters, and our schools. Beyond our tax dollars, ERA is equally committed to partnering to build stronger neighborhoods and communities. Through financial contributions that increase services and employ volunteers who engage with the community, our work has lasting impact. Our longstanding partnership with VEP provides funding for innovative projects that impact students through a teacher's creative lens. Beyond the company's contributions, our employees have volunteered to read to students, as Madhu said, served as grant readers, and through VEP provided funds to Poinsettia elementary students so they could attend a planned environmental field trip after losing everything in the Thomas Fire. We do more than just work in Ventura. We participate in building a bright future for this community, and we believe a strong partnership between education, innovative nonprofits, and business is a way to our critical components to getting us there. Your attendance here tonight shows that we are working towards the same goals. We support innovative educational programming for local students and look to support the education of a future technical workforce. We can all agree that education opens doors and creates opportunity, allowing members of our community to build careers, homes, and lives they are proud of. It's the work we do together that makes an incredible impact. So I want to share with you that Arrow remains committed to safety and responsibly producing the oil that powers this great state, just as we remain committed to be a valued community partner with great organizations like VEP. It's these partnerships that make Ventura a very special place to live and work. So thank you.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to invite Dr. Rice, our amazing superintendent of Ventura Unified School District, to share a few comments.
Thank you, Madhu. First thing I want to do is thank Madhu and the entire board and organization of the VEP for all the work they've done over the years supporting our schools, our students, and our community. Let's give them a big round of applause. We really... Having been here only for 3 months serving as a superintendent, I've been blown away by how close-knit the community is. I've been in the county for 25 years, and you think you know a place until you're in the place. I look out there and I see so many familiar faces from Sean I've worked with for a while, and where's Indy? Indy's back there. He called me out and said 25 years we've been working together or more. Josh Chancellor from Oxnard Union, who's now at the College Board, and I see the community pulling together to support innovation. And that's the theme tonight. And I want to thank Dave, especially Dave Arndt, where's Dave? For being such a champion of innovation. He and Madhu came to our board meeting and spoke up for a new position that we just filled. You may have heard we have a new Chief Innovations Officer. I'm really excited about that position, and we're investing in a person to focus on innovating and bringing compelling programs to kids every day, all day. And that's the kind of effort and commitment it's going to take to make a substantive change in the education of our kids. And you guys are contributing to that, and we appreciate it very much. And the last thing I want to do is just thank all the sponsors for investing in this evening. I'm extremely excited to see Beth and Kelly and Alex do their presentations. And I'm even more excited to go over there and see what's coming off of that 3D printer. I've been staring at it all night, and I'm sure we'll learn later. But thank you all for being here this evening. I know our kids and our teachers and our principals who are here this evening really appreciate your support. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rice, for your leadership. Ventura Education Partnership is quite excited with the direction that the school district is taking, and really looking forward to our continued work together. About a year ago, VEP added a new volunteer to our board of directors, and that role was a vice president of innovation, Mr. Dave Armstrong. And that has really transformed our work. Tonight is his vision. Tonight is a reflection of countless volunteer hours by a team of very passionate people who care about our kids and our schools. It's also a reflection of a lot of heart and soul, a lot of hard work from our teachers, from our volunteers. And so we hope that you enjoy every moment and that you leave here tonight feeling inspired. And I'm just wondering, who's ready to see where education can take us?
At Poinsettia Elementary School, education can take you down a sensory path funded by a VEP grant. Students get a break from classroom learning to get outside and be physical. They experience controlled movement, calming, and self-control strategies to improve academic performance. It's also a chance to have some fun and be a little silly.
So where do ideas come from? That's what I've been thinking about a lot in preparation for speaking with you tonight. And I'm catapulted back to about 2005 when I received my first VEP grant. I was teaching at Balboa Middle School, surly, hormone-prone, whiny, difficult young people, and it was the best time of my life. I absolutely adore all of that angst. And I had gone to this training, groundbreaking, the absolute tuning fork for me in terms of the kind of instruction I wanted to do in my class, called Teaching for Deep Understanding, or the Visible Thinking Strategies, making thinking visible in the classroom. And I was on fire. And I came back and I presented the best lesson of my entire life you can imagine, all of the bells and whistles, and I was so incredibly excited. And my students hated it. They were like, no, we're not. We're not gonna do that kind of thinking. Give me a worksheet, tell me where the beginning and the end are, and I can be done with that. And my heart was broken. This pedagogy, it was from Harvard. I mean, very fancy, right? The exact kind of thing that you need in a classroom. But where do ideas come from? I had these sparks. I couldn't give this up. This was the best thing that I had seen for myself as an educator. I couldn't give it up, but my students were not having it. And so I got the email. The little spark that hit the fuel, that was the email that said there was a VEP grant available. And I went out and I placed my VEP grant in the hands of the world, and I got funded, and boxes started to arrive. And I opened the box in front of the students, and I got out these magical supplies. And I said to the student, I want to let you write in sparkly gel pen that smells like strawberries. I really do. But I can only do that if you promise to tell me what's going on in this image and what makes you say that. I want you to provide evidence. I want you to think deeply. And then I will let you write on fluorescent orange paper instead of white paper. And really, VEP, you funded an amazing trick, which is the best way to get students to do what you want. And it was the spark of those original ideas that I had. And your work as donors and as VEP people and as the school district that really allowed that spark of idea to ignite into this great fire of learning for my students. So it began with a problem, really, this idea, the problem that I needed to solve. And the same thing was true at Poinsettia with this amazing sensory path. So students, back in 2005, there were no cell phones. There was no social media, and it was still really hard. And now there are all of these competing factors. And for me, one of the things I notice about Poinsettia is I'm not as concerned with distracted driving as I am with distracted parenting. And because my students at Poinsettia, lots of people think they know about what Poinsettia is like. They think they have an idea of Poinsettia. But our children are being raised with a lack of attention. And so they come without a set of skills that we might expect. Things like the ability to calm themselves, or the ability to control the fidgetiness of their body. And I'm not just talking about kindergartners and 5-year-olds. Really, probably my high school educator friends in the audience are agreeing that it's that generation as well. A lack of ability to have self-control, the executive function, the things that you have to have in place in order to learn. Those are things that I'm really not seeing. I'm seeing students come from a great deal of trauma in their lives. And that was pre-Thomas Fire. And then if you look at a burn map, it's basically my whole school boundary. So add on top of that all this stress, all the difficulty. We all feel stressed. We rushed to get here today probably. We were feeling stressed as we arrived, another thing to do. Our babies are carrying that into the classroom. And then sit down and learn. And that was just not working. My teachers at Poinsettia, they're veteran and they're remarkable. And they have this giant bag of tricks. But that bag of tricks is just not working for all students all the time. So we need to come up with new ideas. And so as I'm out there, the internet reveals things to me. I don't know if that happens to everyone or it's just me. But I have these sparks of ideas of this problem. What's this problem that I have that exists? This problem of one student in particular I can think of, and I'm going to call him Ray for you, who maybe has some kind of undiagnosed situation going on. I'm not really sure. But his parents have decided that's how he's coming to school, and we accept him and we love him. But he cannot possibly stay still in a classroom, and he is the whirlwind of a tornado. And I wanted to solve this student's challenge and the teacher's challenge. I wanted to say, how can I provide something that will make a solution for this young person? And that little spark was there in the back. And then I saw a video online of a school in another town where they had linoleum and they put vinyl stickers down and then they waxed over it. And the students were going through a sensory pathway. And I had that idea in the back of my mind. And then, again, I got the email. That spark hit the flame of that fuel. That original idea had the opportunity to then take, flight on my school campus. And I knew that we didn't have linoleum flooring, but we do in our city. We have MB Hanrahan. And I knew, just take MB and take an idea, and I knew that I would be able to create something that she would make happen. So I went to my students, and I said, hey, what do you do with your body when you feel yourself activating? And we say when you're in the yellow, and you're a little bit too hyper-vibed, and you need to come back down to green, ready to learn. And they said things like we hop and we skip and we jump. And one student said, I think about hanging 10 on my surfboard, so Ventura. And he had just moved from Temecula, so I think that was kind of there. And so my students, they came up with all of these ideas, all of these various ideas. And then we got together our occupational therapist from the school district, our school psychologist, all of these professionals, teachers, people who know what they're actually talking about, not just me, because it's just an idea, the people who know what they're talking about. And we laid out a plan for our pathway that would activate and calm a student 3 times. Where does it start? Wherever they need it to. Where does it end? Wherever they need it to. How do they get to go there? When they need to. It's not a punishment, it's a solution. So a student may say, hey, Mrs. Smith, I can tell I'm in the blue zone. I'm feeling sad and I'm kind of depressed and I'm feeling lethargic. Maybe I'm too tired. I need to go out and use a sensory path. And then another day, a teacher might say, hey, it must be a full moon because all of you are a little bit wobbly. And we can predict the full moon without even the calendar. But you're feeling a little bit wobbly. And as a class, we're all going to go out together. So whatever is necessary. And then the most beautiful thing is that once it was first painted, I saw parents with their children doing the sensory path. And I tried to kind of hide my tears because I was worried about that disconnected parenting. And I was seeing through the sensory path something I didn't ever expect, which was a reconnection between students and their parents, who in many cases all went to Poinsettia. And they loved this installation. Kids are doing it. Teachers are doing it. Occasionally a principal does it. And really, where do these ideas come from? They're a spark. And sparks are fantastic that we have these sparks and they're out there. But as you're listening tonight, as we hear from Kelly and Alex about their great ideas, I want you to think about how do we make the sparks that you're having tonight hit that fuel so that they can become something that actually gets implemented. Because if we don't, then those things, they just remain ideas. What we want is the outcome for the children. And you're a big part of that tonight. So as you listen, that's my call to action for you, that you're listening to how those sparks of ideas can become reality for our students. Thank you.
Education can take us into the studios of great poets at Buena High School. Through a VEP Innovation Grant, teachers are introducing living poets into the curriculum to deepen students' understanding of contemporary issues. The class has already read the poems and have started their text analysis. They're working on their own interpretations. In this class, Nicole Tong, a Gene Feldman Poetry Prize winner, connects with Buena students from her office in Virginia. She shares her motivations and challenges the students to reflect on their own. Buena's Language Arts Department is engaging and challenging their students through innovative connections beyond the classroom.
Hello everyone, my name is Alex Charette and I'm here with my sister Julie Charette. We're two former AP Literature students that you probably saw us in the video. And it is our pleasure tonight to introduce our former and beloved teacher, Miss Kelly Herrera. So, Miss Herrera teaches AP Literature and Composition as well as AP Language and Composition at Buena High School. And over the course of this previous school year, she applied and received a Ventura Education Partnership grant. And she used this to introduce the Teach Living Poets project into her classroom. And tonight she will share her experiences with this project as well as share its impact on her class with her seniors in AP Lit as well as her juniors in AP Language. So everyone give a warm welcome to Miss Kelly Herrera.
I'm going to talk to you about birds, taking chances, and meeting my people. My mom collected birds, not actual birds, but bird figurines, prints of birds, and little bird knickknacks. And after she passed in 2018, one of those bird prints now hangs in my daughter's bedroom. But it wasn't until a little bit later that I understood why those birds were important and how they would impact my teaching. I've been teaching for 20 years. I just finished my 20th year teaching, and most of those years I've taught AP Literature and AP Language. Every summer when I get my scores, I reflect on what's worked, what hasn't worked so well, and look at our instructional planning reports and make some adjustments. After the Thomas Fire, I knew we'd have a little bit of a dip, but I wasn't prepared for the dip that happened. And so I knew I needed to make a change. And that's when I found Twitter and Teach Living Poets. And Twitter was the last place that I thought that I was going to have changes. I reached out to Susan Barber in Atlanta, Georgia. She is someone who helps manage a website called AP Lit Help. And AP Lit Help is a place where I had submitted a lesson the previous years. And what she said is, you need to get onto the Twitter chats. And I thought, there's no way. And so every Sunday night, I participated in Twitter chats. And this is, think fast and furious AP Literature teachers talking everything about question 1, question 2, question 3 for an hour. And so my husband would make dinner on Sunday nights so that I could do nerdy English things. And it was awesome. And AP Lit Chat soon led to Teach Living Poets Chat. And Teach Living Poets is managed by, it's a movement. It's managed by a woman in North Carolina named Melissa Smith. And the idea behind Teach Living Poets is to bring in living poets into your classroom. And it's not to completely get rid of the canon. The canon is lovely and it's wonderful. But when we're talking about the canon in our classroom, we're so often focused on literary devices and universal theme, but these living poets, they're alive and they're accessible and they're addressing issues of racism, of immigration, of identity, and it's things that are on the national stage and our students want to relate to this. And so I took a risk and I wrote a grant, and the Ventura Education Partnership, they funded that grant, and truth be told, I would have done it anyway. And so here I am talking about what we did in our class, and I'm going to invite Julie up to read a poem from one of our living poets, and then I'm going to get back to what I'm going to say.
Okay, that's on. My name is Julie Charette, sister. Yeah, you already read the whole deal. This poem is called Good Bones. We actually read this in class, analyzed it. It's by Maggie Smith. It goes, life is short, though I keep this for my children. Life is short, and I've shortened mine in 1,000 delicious, ill-advised ways. 1,000 deliciously ill-advised ways I'll keep for my children. The world is at least 50% terrible, and that's a conservative estimate, though I keep this from my children. For every bird, there is a stone thrown at a bird. For every loved child, a child, broken, bagged, sunk in a lake. Life is short, and the world is at least half terrible. And for every kind stranger, there is one that would break you, though I keep this from my children. I am trying to sell them the world. Any decent realtor walking you through a real shithole chirps on about good bones. This place could be beautiful, right? You could make this place beautiful. Thank you.
Maggie Smith wrote that poem right after the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2016, a mother unsure of how to tell her children about the world. And so I used that poem in different contexts this year. I used it as nonfiction and getting students to sort of use it as an argument. To what extent do you agree with her characterization of the world? And I used it in literature also. There's another poet, Natalie Centers-Zapico, who wrote her answer to Smith, and she wrote it from more of an immigrant's perspective, and she wrote, she shields her, or she tells her students, or her, I'm sorry, not her students, her children about the world so that they don't get deported. And so we looked at those two poems side by side for all of their beauty, and then we juxtaposed them in art. And so we're using living poets in such different ways. We use them in language and nonfiction to talk about just the rhetoric, the way that the authors look at message and their purpose. We use them in literature to talk about the beauty and the art. And with living poets, the poets are accessible. On the video, you saw our work with Nicole Tong. Now, Nicole Tong is one of the many poets that are willing to Skype with classes. And so we worked up to this. We read through her poetry collection, How to Prove a Theory. And so as we did that, my class got prepared. And one of the clever questions they came up with was, is your poem Marathon a concrete poem? A concrete poem being a poem that takes on the shape of a poem. And what we learned is that Nicole Tong, she's an avid runner. And as she ran, she recorded that poem. So she would run off to the side of the road, pull her phone out of her jacket, and record a line. So the poem takes on the shape of her running. And these are insights that you don't hear from poets because they're not written down or recorded anywhere. Her poem, Grief Theory, written for her dear friend Anna, captures the last moments before her friend Anna passed, days after giving birth. And it's just these little insights. Our story is written up side by side with Nicole's on the Teach Living Poets website, with a shout out to VEP for helping us out. And Nicole says that our class inspired her. And so as she writes her new collection of poetry, it's in part to our Buena class. Taking chances with living poets is something that's come about because there's no teacher's manual. As we dive in, I am diving in with my students. I don't know what's going to come about. With our Teach Living Poets chat once a month, we're workshopping through these poems and kind of diving in. Some of my students take part in those chats with us, and we'll dive in the next week together. But I don't know where the interpretation's going, and that's part of the fun. It's making me vulnerable with them. But getting out of my comfort zone is what's making me a stronger teacher, and my students deserve that. Our students in Ventura Unified District need that from all of us. 2 weeks ago, I went to the AP Literature reading in Salt Lake City for the first time, another risk I took, and I sat there in a cold room grading thousands of essays, and I got to meet Susan Barber and Melissa Smith, those people that got me on this path, and it was so encouraging to just know that I was doing the right thing. We were encouraged by our chief reader to take chances and to do that for our students. And I know that everything that we're doing with Teach Living Poets and putting ourselves out there is what Ventura Unified needs. I think about where I've been over the last year, and I know I couldn't have gotten there without the support. And I want to bring the girls back up to read another poem, and it's from Clint Smith, another one of our living poets, and it kind of encapsulates where my journey has been, and it'll make some sense.
So the poem's called This Was the First Year I Could Not Remember Your Voice, and by Clint Smith. I tried to imagine the phrases only you would say, but could only hear them falling from someone else's lips. I tried to imagine the stories you would tell me, but your laugh shattered under the weight of this grief. I remember the words you would say, but I don't remember the voice that said them. I remember you would call me sugar, but I can't remember exactly how the R melted when it met the air. I remember how you'd tell me, baby, the Lord is always watching, but I am forgetting how your accent cocooned the warning around my ears. It's strange how I cannot remember your voice, but if I heard it, I would immediately know it was you. Thank you.
Smith's words found me on my first Thanksgiving without my mom. I was standing in the grocery store looking at stuffing mix, and I couldn't remember what she used to buy. And I knew then that the holidays would never be the same. And when I think about my classroom, I know my classroom will never be the same. And when I think about all those birds that she used to buy and they surrounded me, I know now that this little bird that was sent into my life was sent by her, and in this case, the little bird was Twitter. Thank you.
At De Anza Academy of Technology and the Arts, education can turn students into educators. A $1,000 VEP grant started a journey that has brought along additional funding and awareness. Motivated students and educators launched a nonprofit called STEMbassadors. STEMbassadors are students who have mastered cutting-edge technologies. They now train teachers on incorporating advanced tools like CNC routers, 3D printers, and laser cutters in their teaching. Concepts in mathematics come to life. Science has a new meaning as teachers integrate engineering with traditional content in their classrooms.
So, first of all, I want to thank VEP for 22 years of amazing support. Could not have done it without the things that they've done for me and now that they're doing for my students. So I am eternally grateful to them and to all of you who support VEP. You're making a huge impact. What I want to talk to you about today is what was going on in that video, because there are some really unique and unusual things. So first of all, what you saw there was 22 teachers from 6 different schools, 3 different Ventura County school districts, all being trained in disruptive technologies like lasers, CNCs, and 3D printers. But the most unique thing about it was that the training was being run almost exclusively by my business partners, the STEMbassadors. So I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you how things that VEP did for us helped bring us to this point, and then I'd like to introduce the STEMbassadors at the end to tell you a little bit more about their business. So roughly 10 to 12 years ago, I wrote a VEP grant for my first 3D printer. It was a $2,500 grant. It was a very special grant that they were offering for science and technology. And what I didn't write in that grant application was that I was a liberal arts major, German rhetoric and religious studies. I didn't know what CAD was. But I did know that after, at that point, 12 years of teaching exclusively project-based, no textbooks, no workbooks, that I needed something to empower my students. And so I drove down to Orange County. I got my first 3D printer, and I drove back at the beginning of the summer. And that summer, I got my engineering degree from YouTube. And it worked. It took me an entire summer of just making plastic messes until finally I could communicate with that machine, and I could take ideas from my mind. And the saying that they have for this today is ideas to bits to atoms. I could imagine something, I could draw it on the computer, and then I could hold it in my hands. And I brought it to the classroom, and sparks started to fly. Because before, where we would depend on buying a kit, a solar race car kit or a wind turbine kit or some other kit, because otherwise we were dependent on popsicle sticks and glue and Play-Doh to make things. Now, suddenly kids could engineer and manufacture and solve problems at a level that was just unimaginable. And it took off, and I was immediately hooked. Now, the great thing about that time was that at that point, VEP did not have any limit to the number of grants you could write. This is the worst thing you want to tell to somebody who loves to write and can obsess on things. So I started writing, I think, somewhere between 8 and 10 grants per cycle, and very often being awarded, $6,000 to $8,000. So in that classroom now, we were learning math by building and piloting and programming FPV racing drones. We were actually building solar-powered go-karts. Kids building solar-powered go-karts that we could drive around campus. The sky was the limit. And then VEP changed the rules on me. And they said, no, you can only write one. But what they did for me was they set a disposition in me. They made me understand that my classroom was my responsibility, and that if I reached out and asked for help, people would give it to me. So I said, if I can get $1,000, I'm going to try for $10,000. And I wrote my first corporate grant to BP, and we got it. It was $10,000. It was Satakoy Elementary School, and suddenly we could buy more robots, more race cars, more rockets, more of everything. It was incredibly empowering. And then that summer, I was lucky enough to have a conversation with Jeff Chancer, and I thought to myself, hey, if I can get 10,000, what about $1 million? And I went on vacation with my family to Germany, and we put pencil to paper, and I wrote a Enhancing Education Through Technology grant. Again, inspired by this idea that VEP gave us, or gave me, that if you go for it, people will support you. And wrote that grant, submitted it, and got $1 million. It was crazy. And with that money, we put laptop carts, I think the first laptop carts in Ventura Unified School District, into every single one of our Title I schools and trained our teachers. And it just made me realize how empowering it could be. I know you can't solve a problem by throwing money at it, but if there's no money, there's no problem solved, right? So there's this balance. If you have a plan, people will help you and they'll implement. And so since that time, I've been so lucky in this community to reach out to Gene Haas Foundation, has given tens of thousands of dollars to our program. Sensata Foundation, Amgen, West Ventura Rotary Club has tirelessly supported us and partnered with ambassadors and VEP. Even Ventura Trophy Company, I'll tell you a funny story. I wanted to get a laser for my classroom, and lasers are exorbitantly expensive. Cost thousands. So what does a guy do when he doesn't have thousands, but he wants something worth thousands? He goes to Craigslist, right? So I started looking on Craigslist, and I saw an ad for an Epilogue laser. And I wrote the person, I said, look, I don't have any money, but I think you should give me this laser because I'm a really nice guy. No, because we're going to do some really amazing things with it in the classroom. And then it turned out this was Montel at Ventura Trophy Company. And she not only gave us one laser, she gave us two, because she goes, this one's broken, but you can have this one too. And then we fixed that one. So then we're sitting there with two lasers. I called her up. I was like, do you want it back? She was like, no. It's for you. Enjoy it. So one of our biggest mentors and guides, and I really want to call him out because he's here tonight, and I hope I don't embarrass him, but Indy Bacha from MJP Computers. If every vendor who did business with Ventura Unified School District gave back the way Indy does, we'd have 10 times the innovation you see today. He has tirelessly advised me, supported me, and supported the kids in my classroom, and I could not be more grateful to him. So thank you, Indy. Well, as you can imagine, with all these revenue streams coming in, the makerspace where I teach, both math, science, and a makerspace elective, suddenly started to flourish. We had now at this point 8 3-foot by 3-foot CNC routers, a dozen 3D printers. We had drones. We had just about everything that we needed. Then VC Innovates came along. And VC Innovates funded programs for career and technological education. And through VC Innovates, even more money came into the classroom. Now we're running plasma CNCs. So we've got 13-year-old kids doing plasma cutting. Basically, if you don't know what it is, it's a lightsaber on a CNC, like a robot controlling a lightsaber and cutting these beautiful things out of metal. And students started producing works of art and sculpture and instruments, things that hurt your heart when you saw them. It was so incredible. And I was really proud, and then I suddenly realized that we had created a huge problem. And the problem that we had created was something akin to taking a musical prodigy, giving him a cello, teaching him how to play it, and then saying, sorry, no more cello for you. Because when these kids left 8th grade, they discovered that there was not a continuum for them to continue to be designers and engineers and entrepreneurs and makers. It fell right back into this very rigid, you will take AP this, and you will take AP that, and you will take AP this, and it was going away. Now, luckily, I had a great relationship with some of my former students, and we sat down together, and we got to talking, and we said, you know what? We're going to change this. And together, we incorporated a couple of years ago and started our own nonprofit called STEMbassadors. And as much as I would like to brag about it, I feel like the true mark of an innovative teacher is not in how that teacher innovates, it's in how their students innovate. So I would like to introduce you to my business partners, the STEMbassadors, and let them tell you the rest of my story. Thank you.
So STEMbassadors is a nonprofit organization established in September of 2017. And over this time period, we have donated hundreds of hours of time, and we have managed to raise over $100,000 in donations to continue to grow our business. Thank you. Now, all of the students who are a part of STEMbassadors have mastered CAD and are now able to design almost anything they can imagine. We have learned how to build CNC routers and 3D printers, and we have assembled Spark Carts, like you can see here, which are essentially mobile makerspaces, which have maker technologies like a CNC router or a 3D printer, in addition to a laptop and a full dust collection system. Now, we have 9 of these Spark Carts currently in schools throughout Ventura County, and we have distributed half a dozen 3D printers. In addition to providing the resources on these carts, we provide curriculum and ongoing teacher training and support so that we can maximize the learning that comes from these Spark Carts. We have held 2 3-day teacher trainings where we reached out to 24 teachers throughout Ventura County, and they learned how to use these technologies and how to incorporate them into their classrooms. We've also hosted GATE academies that showcased these disruptive technologies and engaged and excited students about their potential of them. Now, these are just steps on the path to our dream of exposing thousands of kids to these technologies and changing the way that we learn in classrooms for good. So taking us into the future of STEMbassadors, I'll hand it over to Anshul.
Thanks, Taya. So to bring us back full circle, we have partnered with VEP once again. VEP has awarded STEMbassadors with the $6,000 Think Big grant. This is allowing us to start our Spark training facility. where teachers can come and set up an appointment to get paired with a student expert who will train and support them and fix any hardware if necessary. Teachers are taught how to utilize 3D printers and CNC routers in their classroom. 3D printers are an additive manufacturing technology. That means that they start by layering down layers of materials such as plastic to create an object. CNC routers work the opposite, as they are a subtractive manufacturing technology. You start with a piece of material, and a spinning bit cuts and carves away to give you your final object. Another wonderful aspect of our training facility is the TechShare library, which allows teachers to check out a piece of maker technology, such as a CNC router or a 3D printer. After a certain amount of time, the teachers can renew their checked out machine or start the process of getting one of their own for their classroom. As STEmbassadors, we hope to transform VUSD into the most innovative district using these disruptive technologies. Thank you.
Good. Well done. Nice job, Uncle.
Wow. That was totally amazing for me. I hope it was for you too. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We really appreciate everyone's support. It's really with your generosity that these types of programs are able to happen. We'll be making grants again in the fall. And if any of you would like to be grant readers and help with that decision-making process, we would love to have your participation. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a good evening. And if you have a VIP ticket, we'll be having a reception on the second floor. Thank you so much.